Every offseason has its ups and downs, and the Chiefs still have some question marks. What are they today on Locked On Chiefs?
From the land of the free and the home of the Chiefs, this is the Locked On Chiefs podcast.
Welcome in, everybody. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, you can get $200 back in bonus bets. If your first $5 bet wins, go check it out on FanDuel. We're going to have a good time. We're going to talk about the things that we have to keep an eye on as they move forward towards OTAs and through them here. Matt Derrick is joining us from Chiefs Digest. Thanks for making us your first listen. Check out another Locked On show for your next one, because we're free and available 5 days a week plus all year round, unless some kind of like holiday extravaganza and Santa Claus shows up and takes me away for New Year's. You're going to get 5 shows a week, so enjoy that. We certainly will. We have a lot to go over. Matt is here from ChiefsDigest.com, Chiefs Digest here on YouTube, as well as 41 is the mic, and a number of other places that you can see him live on television and walking around the streets, and, you just might get an autograph. You never know. You can find me at NFL33.com and RGRfootball.com, as well as Rogue APC, and if you don't know me yet, you just found this podcast, where you been? Been here 9 years doing this, and Matt's been here nearly as long, so we're going to have fun. The pass catchers have some questions. We're going to talk about them next, about what this evolution might look like later, or that'll be later in the show. Before that, we will get to the cornerbacks. There are questions. There is a fight brewing there, and I'm very up for it, but we have to start at really what is the marquee position here in this question mark filled OTA season, the offensive tackles. I know, Matt, we were floored. We were surprised a little bit that they ended up not only wanting to draft Josh Simmons, but being in a position to actually do that, let alone solidify a 5th-round pick in addition for the right to do that. Still a little bit shocked, but I think a lot of people are jumping to the conclusion that he is now the foregone conclusion to be starting at the left side in 2025, and I just don't think anything is farther from reality than that statement. As you see it, where do they have to go to at least begin OTAs at the very least, let alone camp?
Well, I mean, the first thing that you're really banking on is that everything that you think you know is true, which is, and there's a couple of things that you know for sure, which, hey, that is Creed Humphrey and Trey Smith. They're going to be your rocks and your anchors. So you're okay there. You probably just need to have a little bit of, hey, you need to see where Jawan Taylor is at. He sounds like he had an off-season procedure just to do some cleanup in the knee that had been bothering him and giving him a little bit of a crankiness the last season. So, you want to know for sure that he's 100%. And if he's going to be as good as he's been in the past, if he's going to be better than he's been in the past because of the injury cleanup, whether it's going to be worse, because, he's going to be 27, he's 27, turning 28. He should still be in his prime, but you've just got to be ready for that. So those are the things that you feel like that you just need to make sure that you still know. And then it's really figuring out, obviously what you're going to do on the left side at tackle and guard, but, focusing in on tackle, what do you know about that position? I mean, you really don't know anything. You think that Jaylen Moore looked really good when he played as a backup behind Trent Williams, and you think that he can handle it. You don't know that. You don't know anything really about the state of Josh Simmons and where he is health-wise. You don't really know anything about your backups. I mean, because even though the last time you saw Wanya Morris and you saw Kingsley Suamataia, you saw what you saw,
You're walking the bench.
Enough so that you decided to try and address tackle twice during the offseason. I mean, yeah, you're feeling like you already do know a lot about those guys, but, again, they could be better. They could be worse than they've been in the past. The one thing I think that this team needs to do, and I'm going to throw the media in this as well, because, last year, I think that we probably deferred and gave a lot of, just no second guessing to Andy Reid and Andy Heck about that left tackle spot, because, sometimes your eyes tells you things and sometimes you see things and you may ask about them and say, hey, wait a minute, how do you feel about Kingsley? How do you feel about Wanya Morris at this spot? And hey, they say, hey, he'll be okay. You kind of take that. They spent that, the kind of lack of doubt last year. That currency is gone. Because now it's going to be, if Jaylen Moore doesn't look like he belongs or he struggles, and let's face it, we're not going to learn a lot about it during OTAs. The Chiefs will learn some because obviously they're every day. The media is not going to learn a lot because OTAs, we're there 1 day a week. We'll learn a little bit during mini camp when, we're there 3 days in 1 week. But again, no pads, no contact. So you're not going to see a lot. It's not really until you get into the beginning of training camp that it's going to be, okay, what do we really know about these guys and what are we seeing? And this year, yeah, I don't think that like I said, I don't think the Andes and Reed and Heck are going to have that kind of allowance this year, that ability to just kind of, say, hey, these guys are going to be okay. It's going to be, no, wait, you said that last year. So what is it? And if there are things that pop up this year, little signs of some concern, questions about, Jaylen Moore or Josh Simmons, those questions are going to, multiply early.
I think that that's the way that it should be. That's honestly, when you look back at it, I think the reason that he's here, right, is to experiment and see what he can do. I hate to say that they might spend another year with the left tackle situation that is unsolidified, but that feels like it to me. The most common scenario that I keep coming back to, Matt, is that they play this year with Juwan Taylor, and hopefully his knee is good to go through the year. Otherwise, we'll have to change his plan a little bit at right. And Jaylen Moore is able to be functional at left. Whether he excels or not will be the difference between where they look at him in 2026. Because they even mentioned it in Veach's post-draft presser that, hey, Simmons has played on the right-hand side before. It looks like a year from now, we might be talking about Josh Simmons taking over left and Jaylen Moore being over on the right-hand side, with Juwan Taylor having played out his contract. And then we're looking at depth again. Do you see that as a possibility or the favorite?
I mean, if the Chiefs could wave a magic wand, I mean, the way that they have set this situation up in the scenario, their ideal dream scenario is that Jaylen Moore is so good at left tackle this year that you've got no concerns. You're not bringing in Josh Simmons. He's able to just sit the entire season. Juwan Taylor is so good on the right side that you're going to leave him there, and there's nothing you have to worry about. And in 2026, Josh Simmons is good enough to start on the left side. Jaylen Moore moves over to the right. You move on from Juwan Taylor, and if you're the Chiefs, you're hoping you're set at left tackle for the next decade. That's the ideal scenario. If Josh Simmons, I keep saying, if Josh Simmons plays this year, that's a bad sign, because if Josh Simmons plays, it tells you that either Juwan Taylor or Jaylen Moore or both are hurt or not performing. I mean, and that's not, it's not. Doesn't mean that Josh Simmons might not be ready at some point this season to play. It's just simply that if you need Juwan Taylor to be himself this year. I mean, you don't need to be replacing your right tackle too. So, one of your least popular scenarios if you're the Chiefs would be having to move Jaylen Moore over to right tackle mid-season and then all of a sudden, move Josh Simmons into the lineup. That's not ideal. So you don't want that to be what plays out. That's not the idea of a Super Bowl ending season necessarily. But you also, if, like I said, I just keep going back to it. I mean, it has nothing to do with Josh Simmons' development. It's just all about the guys in front of him. If they play well, that's the best thing that could happen, that you just don't find out what you have from Josh Simmons this year, because the other guys in front of him are playing well enough and good enough to take you to a Super Bowl.
And that is everybody's goal every year, but it's not the same at every position. There's a third cornerback on this team, but we have no idea who that is. We're going to take a look at the possibilities coming up next. The NBA playoffs are in full swing, and every night delivers the highlight-worthy performances, major momentum swings, and the can't-miss moments, whether it's a game-winning shot or a breakout player. There's never a better time to get into the action. FanDuel makes that super easy to stay in the game before the tip-off and when it's live. With player props, performance trends, as well as same-game parlays, fans have more ways to play than ever before and to win big. All you got to do, especially if it's an injury night or something is crazy going to happen, you can get into the action right away. If you've got a read on who's heating up because of it, right now you can get on the same game parlay. Easy, and you can win big with it. If you're new to FanDuel right now, it's the perfect time to sign up. Head to FanDuel.com and place your first $5 bet. If that bet wins, you get $200 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sportsbook betting partner of the NBA. Find out more at ChiefsDigest.com and NFL 33 and a number of other places, as you always do. Again, you can find us that much easier every day here on Locked On Chiefs, part of Locked On Podcast Network. And you can get that much more, 816-357-8781 on the text line. Matt, the next thing that I think we're maybe glossing over a little bit is the cornerback position. Obviously, Trent McDuffie is Trent McDuffie. Not going to worry about that. The only question is where he lines up most days. I think the acquisition of Christian Fulton changes the math. I would have said Jaylen Watson's a starter this year when last season ended, after walking off after that Super Bowl. But with that, I do think there is now a competition for 2. If there's a competition for 2, I think there's a competition for 3. With Williams having just been drafted, and honestly, Josh Williams still around, Nazeeh Johnson's still around, CRW that I think does deserve time. I don't think anything really is set behind Trent McDuffie. Am I nuts?
No, you're not. I mean, it circles back to the same, what do we know questions that we're talking about at tackle. What do we know at corner? We know that Trent McDuffie is really good at football and he's your number 1 corner. We know you're paying Christian Fulton like he's a starting corner. And we know that Jaylen Watson has started and been productive when healthy. Beyond that, everything's a little bit of a question mark. I think we saw a little bit of, weakness starting to pop up in the slot with Chamari Connor last year. We don't really know how the safety position is going to shake out. Will you need Chamari Connor more at safety than you really do as a slot corner this year? We don't know that. Are you better off with Trent McDuffie playing more in the slot when you're in a 3-corner situation, which, let's face it, for the Chiefs is most of the time? Do you need to have 2 guys that can play the slot so that when you want McDuffie on the outside, he can be there? When you want him on the inside, he can be there? And who is that slot corner if it's not Chamari Connor? Is it Noel Williams? I mean, we've got a lot of questions there. And like you said, yes, is Christian Fulton just the number 2 corner anointed? No. I mean, he's going to have to earn it. And I think it's a wide open competition. Obviously, Jaylen Watson is in the front because he has been the most consistent. And obviously, he's been consistent despite playing through injuries. But he's also had the injuries. So that's an issue. Nazeeh Johnson has had the injuries. This is going to be his, first really full year back from the ACL injury. And if he's going to be his best, this is the time to be it. Now, Josh Williams is the guy who's been healthy, but has just never been consistent. And then, like you said, you throw in Noel Williams, CRW is an option. I mean, and you've got a lot of other numbers behind those guys too. I mean, Eric Scott, Darius Rush, you name it. I mean, there's a lot of numbers that you could throw at corner once you get down to the 3, 4, and 5 spots. But I mean, once again, if you're the Chiefs, what's your ideal scenario? I mean, I think absolutely is that Trent McDuffie is Trent McDuffie. You're paying Christian Fulton to be the number 2 guy. He wins the number 2 guy job solidly. Jaylen Watson is a star 3rd corner. I mean, you feel like you got a good team of Jaylen Watson as your 2nd corner. You got a really good defensive secondary of Jaylen Watson's your 3rd corner. You need somebody to be able to take over that slot spot. I think if Noel Williams comes in and proves that he can handle that and maybe a part-time role with McDuffie, fantastic. And then if Nazeeh and Josh Williams both show enough consistency to be able to be your 4 and 5s, I mean, that's an ideal situation to be in. Or actually, I guess we're even talking about 5 or 6 at this point. Right. I mean, Chiefs are going to have to keep probably a lot of defensive backs just to keep the guys that, that they know they like. But this is going to be tough because I think this, obviously Nazeeh Johnson was on the wrong side of the cut line his rookie season. So he's been on the practice squad. He's been in that spot. Now, Josh Williams never has. So, but both those guys are going to be in that competition because I think, obviously you've got 4 corners that if you're Chiefs, you've probably already penciled in making this team.
Yeah, as they should. You hope that everyone rises to the occasion. If I was going to put a tag on the door to the DB room, the corner room specifically, it would say upside because everybody's got potential. They can still go chase. And I think that's the proven commodity. Even Fulton, who the Chiefs liked when he was coming out, as did I, thought he was a fit then, he still has more performance left in him to gain upside. But I would say this, for me, you put McDuffie wherever you need to put McDuffie. If I'm calling the shots, if I'm advising Steve Spagnuolo, I'm saying you let whoever battles it out on the outside, let the battle be Watson and Noel Williams. Because I want CRW to back up the nickel. That's what I think he's best at. I think he has playmaking ability. And that way you can start Trent McDuffie inside. You can start him on the outside when they are in just 2 corner sets. But I think there's enough versatility on this group that you have to let the best fits be the best fits and not necessarily carry through with the Fab Five or the guys that have played some snaps for you in the past. If one guy snuck up that we haven't really mentioned or just in passing, who do you think it would be?
Yeah, that's a great question because, of guys who are on the outside, I mean, and just sticking specifically at the corner spot, in particular, I mentioned like Eric Scott and Darius Rush. I mean, those are veterans who have been around for a little bit of time now, but been with this club, either on the practice squad, kind of bounced around a little bit. They've got the potential. I mean, they can absolutely compete for a spot. I mean, we talked about him, but Josh Williams is the guy who just remains the most complex because he's always had this immense talent, has just never really tapped into it. And if you want to talking about like undrafted free agents and who the Chiefs are interested in, Melvin Smith Jr., the kid from Southern Arkansas. I mean, really below the radar guy, but somebody that's got a lot of athleticism. The Chiefs were really high on him, and he looked the part, during rookie mini camp. So I'm interested in seeing more of what he can do going forward.
I think I am as well. He's going to get plenty of matchups because as crazy as the rotation is going to be at corner, there are even bigger questions at who is wide receiver 4 or who's going to have to make plays on special teams as a wide receiver. That's coming up next. Now, I think one of the easiest paths to the roster is playing special teams as a wide receiver. Because if you have the ability to make Dave Toub happy, you're going to give yourself a shot. So given that we've seen this through the years, I don't think there's any way, given this roster makeup and the fact that I think they're going to carry the maximum number of offensive linemen that they can. This is a 6 wide receiver team, in my opinion, when it comes to cut down day. Am I wrong, or do you see something else being a possibility?
I think you're right. And at most, I mean, we obviously have seen this team be a 7 wide receiver team at times. They've been 5. So yeah, I think 6 is the max this year. And then when you get into the questions at running back and tight end and how many you're going to keep, and especially with offensive line probably being at 10, 5's a possibility, but 6 is the max.
Now that said, there's questions abound back here. What we're going to play as though it's a 6-man unit here. Top 3 of the top 3, barring injury, they will be your top 3. Hollywood Brown, Xavier Worthy, Rashee Rice. Done deal. Fine. Whatever. You want to get the draft pick, Jalen Royals, onto the field. He's got to surpass Juju Smith-Schuster in some way in order to do that. Again, barring injury. At this point, I don't see Royals playing over Smith-Schuster until midseason. Do you see something different in what you've seen already?
Yeah, I mean, I don't. I mean, and part of that is just based on what we've seen from a couple of days of a rookie mini camp, it's too much to make a projection. But, what you're talking about in Jalen Royals is a 4th round pick. Well, look at your past draft picks in that kind of position. Chris Conley was a 3rd round pick. Demarcus Robinson was a 4th round pick. I think Chris Conley had like just under 200 yards in his rookie season. Demarcus Robinson didn't play any offense. He was just a special teams guy his rookie season. So, I mean, a 4th round wide receiver for Andy Reid, being that the expectation in year 1, that's not a bad season. I mean, that's just an absolutely distinct possibility. You don't draft a guy in the 4th round thinking he's going to be necessarily a 1,000-yard receiver. I mean, those are the guys that come out of nowhere. I mean, the likelihood is that, if he's just an average 4th round receiver, what is he? I mean, he's a Chris Conley, Demarcus Robinson type. So that means you're probably not talking about somebody who makes a huge impact in year 1. If he does, again, I say it's like the other spots. If Jalen Royals has a big year this year, it's because something bad's happened. It's because something has happened to Rashee Rice, Xavier Worthy, Hollywood Brown. And we talk about what we know and what we don't know. We really don't know where Juju is at this point in his career. Obviously came in kind of midseason last year to a certain degree. I mean, just coming in without any OTAs, without any mini camp, no training camp, nothing like that, and coming in cold. I mean, he picked things up, but it's not the same as having an entire offseason program. He's going to have that this year, so that's an advantage. It's also it's juju. It's just another year of mileage on those knees. And,
Right.
and you really don't know. I mean, obviously this is a place that he fits in well, but hey, he'll admit to you the mileage is what's coming up to this point. So, hey, there's 5 guys, not necessarily guaranteed spots, but there's 5. You've got some options between Royals, Brashard Smith, Noel Williams. I mean, you've got some return possibilities there for special teams. You don't necessarily have a punt returner yet. So you almost need to pencil in Nico Remigio until somebody comes in to show that they can return punts as well as kicks and be that guy. So now you're talking maybe 6. So how's anybody else going to squeak in there? That's what training camp's going to be all about. I mean, there's some players that I think can absolutely make some bids, and especially from a special team standpoint. But, obviously, I mean, with those 6 I just rattled off, you're not talking about a Skyy Moore, and there's other veterans that can compete. I mean, Tyquan Thornton, I think is going to be an interesting receiver to see what he can do in a Chiefs season with a full off season.
Mm-hmm. I agree with you. And it is more that I was going to bring up we know that it's atypical for Andy Reid to part with a draft pick before his rookie contract's over. This might be a reality here. And I'm not trying to say that it should be or shouldn't be. The math that you just laid out. Yes, he's taken some special team snaps as a returner. Didn't pan out so well. I don't see that as an avenue to the roster for him. I think it could end up that he ends up on the practice squad being let go and not being claimed. I think he would revert and return, and I think they would welcome that. That's the most likely scenario in my mind. Do you see a more likely scenario?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the best scenario for at least the Chiefs. Is if you can get a guy with his experience and get Skyy Moore onto the practice squad, great. I just don't see him fitting into this team. And I mean, if somebody else picked him up at the waiver cut going into the season, I mean, that's another, once again, we talk about it. That's a tough spot to go into in a receiver and try and pick up another offense. So would he make an impact for that team? I mean, now, once again, we know that there's a GM out there with the number 1 claim on the waiver wire who's going to be looking at every single Chiefs player that hits it. Does Mike Bergonzi believe in enough still in Skyy Moore to take a chance on him? Maybe he does. Maybe there's another team that feels like that they can fix him. So there's no guarantee you get him back. And that's, what could you get for Skyy Moore? You're not going to get more than like a 7th, maybe even a conditional 7th. So I don't know that there's really a whole lot of value in trading him. But working under that scenario that maybe he can be a guy that you can keep around for some depth, it's probably the best case for him. And once again, I mean, hey, if Skyy Moore finds something that he hasn't shown, if he can stay healthy, maybe he can battle for one of those spots. But like you said, it's hard, I think, for him with where he's at and what his past has been for him to be battling for one of those spots as a true special teams guy. I mean, he's going to have to maybe be that at least number 5 receiver that you can count on a consistent basis.
I think the only other question mark to me in the pass catcher group is who ends up at tight end 3, because the top 2 are the top 2. There's no changing that. The question is whether Wiley's fully healthy, whether he can actually run routes and look clean, getting out of his breaks, etc., and whether Brenningstool is just going to climb right into the depth chart, surpassing Robert Tonyan, and maybe surpassing Wiley. I think what we don't know about health is the number 1 concern here. But it's been a long time since a free agent made that kind of rise right onto the 53. If anybody could do it, it looks like it could be Brenningstool. Do you disagree?
Yeah, I don't disagree. I mean, he's of all of the undrafted free agents, I think he's the best equipped and the best position to be able to compete for a roster spot. And yeah, I mean, his competition would be a healthy Jared Wiley for that number 3's position. It also doesn't preclude the fact that, hey, if both those guys are impressive and Jared Wiley's healthy, that you keep 4 tight ends. So, the only thing that would encourage me a little bit if you're the Chiefs is that, it doesn't sound like that the market for Brenningstool was as deep as we expected, because when he was asked about the number of teams and other offers that he had from other clubs, he said it was 4. So I thought there'd be a lot more teams, and maybe it was just because, hey, maybe he got had an offer from the Chiefs in hand, and maybe some teams didn't even bother to make an offer. Maybe they just didn't get to him before, the Chiefs made theirs. Maybe his agent just turned some down they never told him about that were just non-starters. You never know. But if that's the case, maybe Brenningstool is a guy that you can sneak onto the practice squad. If he has a good camp, you hate to lose him, and maybe the team will force the Chiefs' hand to force them to keep him on the 53. But I think you're right. I mean, once again, how many receivers you keep at wide receiver at that spot is going to completely depend on the other positions and maybe who those players are. Because if you get some special returns help, like I said, at running back spot, maybe that means that you don't have to have the same kind of experience at a receiver spot.
Could very well be. Now, we're going to have way more on this as we get closer to OTAs. The schedule drop is coming. So if you haven't seen that yet, you'll see it from us very soon. We appreciate you. Check out Matt at ChiefsDigest.com, Chiefs Digest here on the platform, as well as all of our outlets here on YouTube. If you're watching us, thank you. Make sure you like and sub and hit that bell. But also hit the audio sides because we're always available on audio. It's becoming summertime. You might just want to listen as well. So we appreciate you. Matt, thanks for the insight. And hopefully we won't be revisiting these all summer long, but I kind of feel like we will be.
There's a couple of them we're going to have to touch on for sure.
We definitely will. And we hope that you guys will join us. We thank you for your time today in listening, watching, subbing, wherever you are. Have a wonderful evening. We'll be back with you tomorrow and we'll talk to you then.